The traditional model of real estate valuation is undergoing a seismic shift. Blockchain technology coupled with asset tokenization is disrupting the industry, creating new possibilities for transparency, efficiency, accessibility in the way that we assess value in property. Now imagine a world where your meticulously documented development project with its constant stream of updated information can achieve a higher appraisal through real-time valuation, potentially unlocking new financial opportunities and then maximizing your project's value. This interview dives into the details of how this future is being built and how it could benefit developers and investors alike. Meet three leaders in the space: Matthew Schneider, CEO of Building; Jonathon Chambliss, founder at Elevator Labs; and Jay Smith, Vice President of Business Development at Accumulate and a distinguished engineer at InvVenum Labs. Listen in as they paint a picture of a future where real estate valuations are more accurate, dynamic, and just accessible more than ever before.
Now, based on information that is constantly being uploaded, appraisal is being done in real time. And that is the underpinning of the capital markets, the liquidity, the price discovery that we are trying to introduce. You cannot really have price discovery.
Now all of a sudden I've got a document with a cryptographic signature of the person behind it that no one can forge. So I know that that engineer with these credentials is certified that this is the right information.
The consensus that technology adds value to construction management is pretty given at this point. The question is who's using it. And so the next challenge for
Matt,
Yeah,
let's
take it
hear
away.
from you. Who are you and what is your company?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Building, and I have had of the past 3 years to build a project that I believe is the gold standard for real estate tokenization. I didn't come from a real estate background initially. I was more in capital markets. So my exposure to finance was in equities and derivatives. But then transferring that knowledge to real estate and understanding the technology aspect has been fascinating, and seeing the industry change, seeing what needs to be done, innovating upon that, talking to customers and bringing them innovation. It's been a wonderful journey over the past several years.
Great, thanks, Matt. And John, how wonderful are you?
I'm great. I love talking to Matthew on a regular basis. Same with Jay Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of Elevator Labs. We set out to securitize and tokenize commercial real estate in the best way possible. I do have a background in commercial real estate and the developer handover process. So we had in mind a very high level execution of the pre-through post-construction management process, but to do so on a self-sovereign or decentralized rail. And so I'm honored to be able to build something fantastic and talk to these guys today.
Thanks, John. And Jay, tell us about who you are and what business you have.
I'm Jay Smith. I am the Vice President of Development for IDD Labs, but probably more important, I'm the Chairman of the Governance Committee of the Accumulate blockchain, which I got involved with back in 2018, and we've been very involved because we're very focused on identity and data. Been very involved with the tokenization, and particularly the real asset tokenization market in general.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go to Matt. So, Matt, why was Building founded?
Well, Building was founded almost impulsively after I made an abrupt decision that what I was initially working on with eStates needed to go enterprise. And so Building itself is quite new, but the idea of a tokenization platform has been a few years in the making. And we set out with a couple different missions. Of course, we wanted to democratize access to commercial real estate. as an investment and see if we can facilitate the flow of capital to projects so that these real estate developments can succeed. But in addition to that, we had an idea that this technology could optimize the industry further. And it wasn't until I made that switch from estates to building that those benefits were truly realized, and we saw the opportunity for artificial intelligence, data management, different ways that we can provide data provenance and all the benefits, the waterfall of benefits in capital markets and real estate and construction. So I think optimization and democratization are the two rhyming words that I would use to describe what we are trying to accomplish in the grand scheme of things with building.
Jay, you're working with InvVenum. You are developer for Accumulate, correct? Which is how does that fit in with Matt just said?
Just one small correction. We are a layer one. We're not a layer, or actually
Layer one. Okay.
Yeah, and actually we're probably maybe a layer zero, because the layer concept really is it really comes from the smart contract basis of most blockchains, and we are not a smart contract layer. We work with smart contract layers to do things that they normally can't do. And to answer the original question, we provide the foundation for a lot of this in terms of if you start talking about investment, if you any tokenization investment, you're talking about large amounts of data, you're talking about people, you're talking about identities, and you're talking about the ability to know who did what, and that's what we do. But we're kind of at the base of everything. We're a technology, the boring part.
Oh, come on. We can make that technology sexy sometimes.
I think it's sexy, but a lot of people
Yes. All of these things, these base layers are, helping us build the blocks that we need. And Matt's always talking about, yes, you can tokenize, but you talk about the data first.
Right. I mean, Jay is underselling what they're working on. The foundation is the beginning of everything. And although it may not be seen very often, the same way that the concrete foundation might not be recognized in a commercial building, it is the mark of something new. When you are going past a construction site and you see the hole in the ground and then you see it filling up, you know what is coming next. It is an indicator of something big being built. And so while some of the technical buzzwords might get lost with folks and they're just looking for the end result, it's truly the enabler. And so we do have a great appreciation. And it's also a shift in sentiment for the industry when we can start talking about infrastructure and what the industry needs as opposed to just end results. It gets stuff done. It moves capital. It builds companies. It builds companies like ours. So we are appreciative of the projects that Jay is enabling and working on.
And Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Matthew and I early on in our conversation had an interesting discussion about trustless versus trust environments. Very early, he said, why would you want to create a trustless thing, something that is not trustable? And I told him that from my experience with self-sovereign system and edge networks, really you're defining what is trust, but you're defining it in a new way organizationally for most people. And most people don't speak that language, but they do speak the language of trust and expectation. So if you can come with a guidance of what does trust and expectation look like, right, as a service, as a product, then everything else is kind of downstream from that. But you have to have a good understanding of how to build trust, what to do with it. How has trust been used in the past? How has trust been lost in the past? And so that's why I have really strived so far with our work to not reinvent the wheel, not to create something from scratch, but to optimize what's around me, right? And what I have found, the best optimizations, retrieval augmented generation, and zero knowledge proofing. These are fantastic tools that any organization would benefit from, implementing into their workflow. But you have to train your staff, right? You have to train your people to be able to understand how this technology potentially affects your business model. And there's still a regulatory consideration, right? We still don't know how AI and blockchain ultimately are going to land as a technology. So the early adopters are really bearing the technical burden of what the future looks like and how the industry is going to adopt these products. And I think if you have done as much product market testing as Matthew and I have, and definitely Jay, you have a good understanding of what products people get excited about and what products actually solve problems for people. And those become a much easier sell, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Can I carry on the concept of trust a little bit? I have
Oh, sure, please.
something like that.
Please
So
do.
and trust, the kind of unique thing that we're doing here that John and Matthew are taking advantage of is they are utilizing authority. And this is something that's kind of unique to blockchain and kind of unique to digital identity, in that you're saying that something, an asset, is worth an amount. It's worth $10 million. And usually the assets we're talking about fairly large assets. And in order to trust that, normally in the real world, you trust it because you can go to a file cabinet, you can pick up pieces of paper, and you have all the documentation behind you. When you're talking about tokens, you no longer have that. And so how do you reestablish trust? And what they're doing is leveraging the fact that in our world, we can create digital identities that are cryptographically provable, and you can have a document tied to a cryptographic identity, and so you know who is standing behind that document, even though you're looking at it in a virtual data room. You're not really in the room full of filing cabinets. And this has been really important for this industry. This is a really unique thing they're doing, because if you think about tokenization of real world assets, and somebody comes in and I've tokenized my office complex, and I've got all these wonderful tokens on a marketplace, and somebody comes in and says, I really like this token. What's it worth? And if your answer is, well, let me take you back to these room full of file cabinets, you've not really accomplished a whole lot. And this is one of the things that's been holding the industry back. And this is kind of part of the revolution that these guys are going, is they're with what they're doing and what they're working with InvVenum, and using the blockchain and the trust that it creates. All of a sudden you've got data on your computer where the token is, that you can trust, and now you can value it, and now you can make a financial decision of large amounts of money.
So, how do people know that what has gone into the data that is on blockchain is true and correct to begin with?
That is a big question. I think Jonathan is probably the best qualified.
I'll
I
take
had
that
that
one.
same question in the beginning.
So,
Lots of people have that question.
So, in many hours of discussion with architectural designers who are also excited about technology and building information management systems, data parsing, data quality, and data orchestration is their 9 to 5 and has been their 9 to 5 for the last 20 years. Blockchain and securitization didn't necessarily change the business model. It just created a new opportunity to potentially value the technology in valuation services, or appraisal or financial reporting. There are a number of ways that technology makes the job easier, but parsing and qualifying the data didn't change as the objective of their organization and of their business. So it was my belief that building information management specialists would kind of inherit the tokenized real estate kingdom, so to speak, because they were already in a position to recognize how technology has affected data orchestration in commercial real estate development for the last 30 years. And so they know how to best weaponize new infrastructure in the common data environments. And that leads back to what I was talking about earlier in adoption. You can have some of the smartest architectural designers, engineering designers, commercial real estate development companies, even some of the largest supply chain management companies in a room. If they're not all using the same system or trying to get on board with a similar standard for their system, it doesn't really add a tremendous amount of value. And so I believe that our earliest adopters of tokenized commercial real estate are going to be the fund managers and the developers, and the marketplace that exists currently between those two and the technology rails that allow those two to develop projects, for projects to get funded, for architectural design and engineering, and all of the steps in between required for a project to see handover to stakeholders. So we're very bullish. Elevator's very bullish in that jurisdiction because that regulatory guidance. But we feel the adoption of this type of technology is going to be global. There's no doubt that the value add here is significant. The question becomes, how do we deploy it? Who's deploying it in what jurisdictions? Which jurisdictions already had good technical adoptions and which are laggards? And ultimately, if we're democratizing, we should be excited about the parts of the world that aren't currently building in efficient, effective manners, because we'll have even better adoption of new technology in those jurisdictions.
Thank you. And Jay, how are you figuring out the deployment on a global basis?
The blockchain is naturally global all by itself. The Accumulate blockchain itself is a global public blockchain. Part of what a blockchain does is make sure all of the data in the blockchain is distributed to every node. I mean, it's one of its natural behaviors. And Accumulate is unusual in that it's both a public and a private blockchain at the same time. And so, as I said, the public blockchain is global, and then Matthew and John's private subnet of that, run by their organizations, will also be global. They'll have servers distributed around the world. So a lot of times the problems that you would think globalization would be are not for our particular industry.
Basically, blockchain seems to be a great releaser of silos
Yeah.
within industries, within countries. It forces a distillation of standards. What an enormous undertaking for all of us, right? Matt, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just as a final comment on that, my perspective in terms of going back to your original question, how do we maintain quality of information being uploaded? And then how do we deploy this globally? We are not eliminating quality assurance just because we are utilizing technology. In fact, those who are responsible for quality assurance should be better equipped. It goes back to the rollout of the computer, the personal computer. It should not really be replacing jobs. It should be enhancing those that already exist. And as we present or make information prevalent, the ability to look over that, to attest that, and ensure that a project will be followed through at maximum capacity should be amplified. In terms of global deployment, because then of course we have to talk about standardization. How are we maintaining these expectations on a global scale? How do we ensure that information coming in is high quality? And this is why we talk a lot about building information management, because it is a process. It is a means of, in a sense, standardizing how we are developing these projects, what we are looking for. And it goes a step further with all the different compliance measures that are introduced along the way, and then, of course, with what we are building here at Building. Because the federated data room does have a template, and it is looking for particular information in order for our models to function correctly. And so assuming that we roll this out and we work with communities that we are tapped into, BIM Heroes is a great example of that, and we begin to standardize this globally, we can expect that more stakeholders in AEC, architectural engineering, construction, through the life cycle of the project are going to be upholding these standards because they know that it means cost savings, more efficiency, compliance, the ability to tokenize, to engage in this new capital markets that we are building.
What I was going to say was I wanted to turn around a question that you asked a while ago, which was how do we know that we can trust this data on this system? And let me turn this around, and in the real world, in the way things are done now, your data is in a file cabinet someplace. And so your trust is based on, well, it's in that file cabinet and someone told me that that's the file cabinet that contains the right documents. And I pull out a document. Now, how do I know that that is an original document or that's been replaced or anything like that? And in this world that John and Matthew are creating, every document will have a digital signature on it. You'll be able to tell the exact minute that that document was placed in there. You'll be able to cryptographically prove that that document has not been changed. You'll be able to cryptographically prove who said it was there, and you'll be able to see that the person that said that this particular document that's making some claim, that the person who is attesting to that document, you can see their credentials and see that they have credentials that would make them worthy of believing. And so, I would turn it around. Why would you trust the system that exists today? What John and Matthew are offering is a much better, more.
Right, Jay, who knows if Mary from the county put the information in correctly and she, actually was able to, put her stamp of approval, or if she was even approved to put that information in correctly, right?
You're absolutely right. And really, if you think about it, the fact that Mary, the county recorder, put her stamp on it only tells you that somebody handed her that piece of paper, but that doesn't say anything about the quality of the information on that piece of paper. The person that has to tell you, yeah, and the person that has to tell you that is the person, the expert. And so now instead of just having a piece of paper with the experts, usually a copy of a piece of paper with the expert's signature on it, which is easy for somebody to forge. You see a signature there. That might be a signature, might not be. Now all of a sudden I've got a document with a cryptographic signature of the person behind it that no one can forge. So I know that that engineer with these credentials is certified that this is the right information. And that's just a whole new world of trust.
One thing that I would add to what Jay was just saying was not only are we ensuring the authenticity of information that is being presented by these experts, but also the recency. And that is a very important note in a project, in an industry, in a market that is always changing. We may be able to indicate physically that a document was put into a filing cabinet, but we have no clue if it is relevant. And even expertly attested information that is out of date is useless. And so in the environments that we are creating, Jonathan and I, being able to show the relevancy, the up-to-dateness, the provenance of data and whether it should or should not have changed over time is very, very powerful. And it does contribute to the appraisal component of this, where now, based on information that is constantly being uploaded, appraisal is being done in real time. And that is the underpinning of the capital markets, the liquidity, the price discovery that we are trying to introduce. You cannot really have price discovery on outdated information. that data needs to be relevant and prevalent. And so this system that we have in place to ensure a continuous stream of information is really going to help capital markets scale and become liquid. And it goes back to, if we want to talk about the perks of tokenization and democratization, there's so much that has to preface it, because many people have found out that liquidity does not magically appear. It appears when you have buyers, and you have to figure out what the buyers want. And they want something that is trustworthy, that is risk mitigated, and that does have great upside that could be enhanced and amplified by the services that we are offering.
The consensus that technology adds value to construction management is pretty given at this point. The question is, who's using it? And so the next challenge for us, really, beyond education on how the technology affects the workflow for people and how it's going to generate new value for the entire life cycle of commercial real estate development. The next question is, how do we get adoption? And I believe federal entity, NGOs, and municipalities, they're actually waiting to get on board. They just need to see the right people using the right systems in order to build the right public trust to allow everyone else into the party. And that's what I'm really excited to do. I want to kick open that door and let everyone in.
We built Accumulate with this idea that data and identity were important, our whole team, and it's really exciting to see people like Jonathan and Matthew taking the ideas that we had and building on it and creating real solutions where they're able to take the things that are unique that we can do and do new and unique things for the market. And so this is a really fun partnership.
So in the environments that we are creating, Jonathan and I, being able to show the relevancy, the up-to-dateness, the provenance of data, and whether it should or should not have changed over time is very, very powerful. And it does contribute to the appraisal component of this, where now, based on information that is constantly being uploaded, appraisal is being done in real time. And that is the underpinning of the capital markets, the liquidity, the price discovery that we are trying to introduce. You cannot really have price discovery on outdated information. That data needs to be relevant and prevalent. And so this system that we have in place to ensure a continuous stream of information is really going to help capital markets scale and become liquid. And it goes back to, if we want to talk about the perks of tokenization and democratization, there's so much that has to preface it, because many people have found out that liquidity does not magically appear. It appears when you have buyers, and you have to figure out what the buyers want. And they want something that is trustworthy, that is risk mitigated, and that does have great upside that could be enhanced and amplified by the services that we are offering.
Matt, you have, even though your company will be doing tokenization, you talk about data management first. You're a little bit different with other tokenization companies or other TaaS platforms out there in your view.
Right. I was reading your minds. Why would we be talking about data when tokenization is the trend? And the reason is that data underlies it. It is the foundation, as we were discussing before, of everything we are trying to accomplish in capital markets. And tokenization, when it is fully realized, should just be an optimization of capital markets. So if we want great capital markets, what is going to be optimized? And the answer is data. It is the information pertaining to the equities, the bonds, the treasury bills, the real estate, the alternative assets that we are investing into, that we are creating new financial instruments upon. And in something like the private markets and commercial real estate, the deficit of data is a huge problem. It's a problem whether you're talking about waste, litigation, efficiency, productivity, the potential dangers when there's a shortage, and then also discounts. So when we have an absence of information, it really damages the markets as a whole. And so the best that we can do to fill in that information, fill in that data so that our stakeholders on a real estate project are informed, that investors are informed, that collateral becomes stronger, that risk, most importantly, risk is mitigated, because it is because of risk that perhaps you get a worse cap rates, or someone will not use your project as collateral, or you apply a discount. If we can mitigate risk, then assets become considerably stronger. And once we have a strong asset, we have something worth tokenizing. If you tokenize without the foundation present, without the information present, to be honest, I'm not sure what you have just tokenized. And that is a overwhelming issue in the industry right now. And it's why we have large organizations coming to us and saying, we are looking to build up these collateral pools, but we're not going to touch commercial real estate unless we can do it in a way that provides all that foundational information that we're looking for. How can you create loans, or how can you create derivatives if you have what is not even real ownership in an underlying asset, which is what a lot of tokens represent nowadays? You have a house of cards, and that house of cards tumbles. To make a comparison, we are all familiar with FTX, in which you had these currencies that were really inflated, and they were using that as collateral for other currencies. Well, to be honest, tokenized real estate as it stands right now is no different if the underlying data and the legal tethering is not present, which is a shock to most people that I would be comparing FTX to tokenized commercial real estate. But as it stands, it's almost the same thing, unless you really have the amount of diligence that has gone into the tokens that we are aiming to create.
Well, if you're a developer and you have an exit coming up, and you want to sell to some other large institution, how are you coming up with the credibility and placing the value on that as compared to what you're doing here?
Oh, I'll take a stab at that one. So really, it boils down to appraisal, right? For most real estate professionals, how does the technology apply to them, right? What's really happening is the democratization of technology is, I think, affecting information property management. Right, I believe architectural design is actually being disrupted right now. If you have the ability to create a financial instrument for a construction project, what you've done is you've created a valuation on that architectural designer that didn't exist previously. So you have a way for that architectural designer to market themselves in a way that they, yes, have had the ability to do, but not on this type of rail, not with this type of automation. So in an industry where the architectural designers are all in silos, and for contractual reasons, for IP reasons, how you attack that monster, how you break that structure down and rebuild a new technical stack, is you actually start from the middle, in my opinion. You start from the size of the organizations that still have a say in their cloud compute spend, right? And how they're structuring their data for their small to medium-sized projects. And then you get the interest of the big guys. And when the big guys recognize what they're getting in an ROI versus a cloud compute spend, or I'd even say a hardware spend, right, at projects on site, data orchestration gets very, very interesting and exciting and new if we're revaluing or rebuilding the valuation process of construction management because of the revaluation of commercial real estate globally.
I'm going to quote you, Matt. You said, the capability of a company to communicate information determines its success. That's quite a bold statement. There's a lot of things that could determine success.
If we are willing to define information as pretty much everything that exists at all times, then it is absolutely a factual statement. In the case of a commercial real estate property, the better that we can collect, store, and transfer information, the more likely that project is going to be a success at every single stage. In ideation, ideas are thoughts are ideas, or information, to when you are actually breaking ground and you have to translate those plans, those models, the digital twin, to something that becomes physical. That is the transfer of this now digitized information to what is actually happening on the job site. As that construction continues, more information is collected, the state of the development, the material costs. So information is always moving. And if we can remove friction when communicating that information, then, well, friction in this case is usually expenses. If we can remove expenses, then it is more profitable. And that's good for the project developer, for any sort of stakeholders on the financial side of things. And we have to acknowledge that there's good and bad information as well. There's corrupted, there's truth, there's transparency and opaqueness. And we have to push towards a seamless transfer of trusted or trustless, as John would say, information. And for commercial real estate in particular that struggles with these concepts, it is going to be revolutionary.
Is there like an example or a great case study of something that has come to actuation that you would like to give as an example?
There's some European developers who have already implemented some edge systems into architectural design, but there hasn't been any significant assets built. The kind of the problem is, how do you structure that deal with all of the existing parties and their tolerance? When you look at our implementation, we're talking about procurement and supply chain management. That is beyond the appetite of many organizations from a data scrutiny standpoint. So I can give a lot of different use cases from Europe where there is some type of implementation. But broadly, I'd say AECO, architectural engineering, construction, and operations. This is what you're really talking about. And yes, full lifecycle architectural design for the life cycle of the asset without blockchain has been existing for the last 5 to 10 years, arguably, and there's traditionally seen about a 10 to 15% value in the development of the asset, and about a 5 to 10% value increase over the asset, just from general BIM orchestration. So if you look at BIM orchestration as a traditional use case, those are the values that's currently being implemented at scale now. Matthew and I believe that the technology will add a multiple to that number.
Yes, and in terms of some great use cases that we are looking to introduce, the official hard launch in which we're going to be publicly inviting more developers to come onto building is very soon, but we have some top of the funnel real estate development, new developments that we are looking at, and they do utilize BIM, which is what we require before engaging a project. And we will see how that added with the federated data room and the AI models that have been designed for real estate assets, plus the potential of secondary markets, how all of this fits together and what value is measurably added, how the stakeholders of a project feel about it, what they're willing to pay for it, and then what it looks like to the end user, where they now have the highest quality tokenized real estate that has ever existed. So we have some great use cases of our own that we are developing predominantly here in North America, but we are looking at ways that we can expand to other continents based on our real estate connections. And that's going to be a really great proof of concept to show data management and tokenization and building information modeling is applicable around the world.
Excellent. Now, you are inviting developers who are interested in this to come and talk to you. How would they get a hold of you? And who are you looking to partner with to continue people through this funnel?
So first and foremost, our website is a great place of information to learn about what we're talking about, as well as to get in touch with us and see if this solution is good for you. So that is building.inc, spelled like incorporation, so INC, building.inc. Lots of details there and ways to reach out, to schedule a call, to message us. We've had a great influx of folks sending me messages saying we are interested in the potential of tokenization, the way that this could democratize an investment opportunity, and the new ways it could add value to the property. So if improving your top and bottom line on a commercial real estate development is of interest to you, then you absolutely need to reach out. And I present the honor to anyone who is willing to take this leap of faith and become an early adopter of a technology that your project becomes a use case for the new tokenized economy. It is without a doubt that everything is moving towards tokenization, and we are going to make sure that we are the foundation of that. And so using your real estate development to demonstrate the value add is going to be it's very difficult to quantify all of the value to your brand and your development and the connections that will manifest from that.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get back together, Matt, to see these companies having gone through your funnel in the process and being able to see what the outcome is. So promise me that we'll get back together when that happens.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure to continue to talk about tokenization for as long as I live.
All right, guys. I thank you for spending the time.